Hello, my name is Jennifer Lee. I am a lead lifestyle counselor at the Center for Community Health and Prevention, and I'm here with the Gut Health series to talk about fitting exercise into a busy schedule. So I thought I'd start off with a silly meme. And it says, the doc said to spend 30 minutes a day on the bike. I can do that. I thought this was a pretty hilarious illustration of sometimes how we feel about physical activity. So sometimes I think we really like physical activity. Sometimes we really find it a chore and find it challenging to fit in. And I think it becomes even more challenging when we feel like we don't have the time or space to get in or fit in physical activity. So today we're going to be talking about what are some tips and tricks in order to maybe increase our movement. So I first like to start by asking the question, what movement counts? And really wanted to emphasize the point that any movement counts. I think sometimes we have this expectation in our head of a certain amount of physical activity that really is important to obtain to make a difference on our health outcomes. And sometimes it is important to think about the amount, but I think that when we have some of those expectations, it can be a little discouraging when we feel like we can't fit it in. So I like to start with this idea that any movement counts, whether it's small bursts of activity or just even our daily movements, and it can really be an impactful part of our health and improving our health. So what is movement? There's kind of two different types of movements that I think about, and that is daily functional movement. So this is activity or movements that we're doing in a day just with the way that we're living. So this can be, doing our daily chores. This could be movements that we are doing when we're walking to work. This could be playing with our kids. This could be going outside and gardening. This is movement that we just do as we're alive. Structured exercise is when we are actively setting time aside to do some very specific exercises. So this could be like cardiovascular activity or muscular training, or even flexibility training. So this is movement that we're kind of setting time aside to complete. So first we're going to take a look at how do we increase maybe some daily movement. Again, working under the idea that any movement counts. So this could be daily movement as well. I think the first tip I have is really trying to multitask and make some of our daily tasks into a workout. That there are ways or strategies that we can think about completing our tasks that might make it a more intense workout or an intense movement. So for example, the very first one that comes to my head is oftentimes when I vacuum, it'll be like a slow kind of leisurely process. And I think I can make it into a cardiovascular workout if I'm really actively moving my arms and legs, or maybe even timing myself to see how fast I can get this task done. And usually by the end of my vacuuming, I actually have worked up a sweat and I can feel some of my heart beating a little bit faster. But similarly to that idea that there might be some ways that we're thinking about our daily tasks that may make it more inconvenient or more difficult for us, but actually have that cardiovascular benefit or some of the exercise benefit at large. The other thing I think about is some positive pairing. So especially for people that are finding it maybe just not fun to exercise, doing some positive pairing might be helpful in increasing some motivation, or just feeling like you're not feeling as much of a chore when we're doing it. So this could look like, for example, when you're watching your favorite show, Maybe the positive pairing is on the commercials, you're doing a series of exercises, or you're walking in place during commercials. Or maybe it's as you're going for a walk on your commute to work from the parking lot, you're listening to your favorite podcast. Or maybe it is, going outside, and as you're going to get the mail, you're actually taking a walk around the block. So some positive pairing, making the exercise or movement more enjoyable with adding some things that you actually like. Another thing I think about with increasing daily movement is commutes. So is there a way that we can increase exercise with our physical activity commutes? So most people, some people work from home quite a bit now, but if you're thinking about commutes to work, maybe you're parking in a parking lot and having to walk into the building. Can you walk a little faster? Or can you take an extra long path or route in order to make it a longer or more intense commute? Or maybe you want to bike to work. Maybe that is a goal of yours. And that's something that you're wanting to try. Commutes can also be part of like grocery shopping, shopping in the mall, and getting our daily tasks done when we're leaving the home. I also think it's important to think about how long are we sitting, or how long are we being sedentary, because I think the breaking up of sedentary behavior, like with stretch breaks, whether it's like moving our arms back and forth, or doing a more strenuous like workout or movement with resistance training or walking around the block. I think those can be a really helpful tool in our health goals and health outcomes over time, trying to reduce sedentary behavior. Okay, some other helpful tips when we're thinking about structured activity. I really think about making this a realistic goal. So if you're trying to get some routine down with physical activity, really think about what can I actually do? And what would be attainable for me? Because I think the best type of exercise routine is the one that we can actually achieve. So if that in the beginning is like one time a week where you're doing some structured activity, I think that is great. And then maybe there'll be some additional time you can add in as we go on, but especially in the beginning, making it especially attainable. And then I think about what are some of the barriers that come up with structured activity. It could be time. I think time is a really big one for people. So again, working with this idea that any movement counts, structured activity can be short and still count. Some apps that I think are really useful for this idea of shorter workouts is the 7-minute workout. I think they might have a website, but I know that they have an app available for most smartphones. They also have a 7-minute workout for kids, which is an option. If you don't have a mobile phone and you have access to the internet, YouTube is a great place for finding some like creative workouts that are still short as well. And there's also this idea that you can create your own workout. Maybe it's doing jumping jacks, or maybe it's doing some squats or push-ups, and setting a timer for yourself and completing them in 1 or 2 minutes. And there's a way that I think doing the shorter workouts, I think it's easier sometimes when we follow something, but I think doing it by yourself and creating it on your own is a really great option as well. So those are just some of my tips and tricks with thinking about daily movement, functional exercise and movement, and then some structured movement as well. But again, I think really any ways that we can start thinking about increasing activity throughout the day will really help us in the long run. All right, thank you so much. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.